Well, we start off today talking about sagging. What are we talking about? Sagging jeans. Some people consider it to be a fashion trend. Others consider it to be offensive. Actually, legislation is possibly in the works right now to see whether or not sagging would actually be considered a crime. People who have their jeans, quote unquote, sagging off their behinds. The question is it their right to just be able to do that, or is it a crime? Well, here to talk a little bit about the whole sagging controversy are two people who are very familiar to us here at Perspectives. Andy King, who is the director of the Bronx Youth Empowerment Program, which deals with many young people here in the Bronx. And then Coach Stevan Lynn, host of the Dare2Dream program, and we thank him for coming and sharing, both of you guys actually for coming and sharing with us here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Let me get your perspective, if you will. And I'll start first with you, Andy. When it talks to the topic of sagging and these sagging jeans, we see people walking the streets, you know, the jeans are sagging, you know, you can go pretty much anywhere this day, jeans are sagging. What's your perspective on the whole sagging controversy? Because there is legislation trying to make this against the law. Agree? Disagree?
Well, I think anytime that you're wearing anything that can be offensive to other folks, society has to make a decision what's appropriate and what is not appropriate. Over the course of years, if you take in the history of America, they've decided what's right for our communities and what's wrong for our communities, and they can perpetuate any activity, whether it can be detrimental to our young brothers or it can be something that's positive to our young brothers. So when I hear about legislation possibly being enacted to say if it's decent exposure, I can support that, because I wouldn't want my mother, my grandmother to be having to walk down the street to see the buttocks of a 14-year-old walking down the street. And what are fathers at home doing, or men in the community doing, or not doing, shall we say, to allow this type of behavior to actually exist in the communities?
Coach Stevan Lynn, your perspective.
I have to concur with that. The legalities of it, of course. What is indecent exposure? If they were showing bare skin, then there would be no question. It would be just like undressing down and being naked through the street. However, the fact that they are wearing their shorts or underwear or whatever underneath their pants might make it a little difficult when it comes to the legalities, as I said before. But my brother, I agree with him wholeheartedly. This whole idea and the whole look stems deeper. Legislation or legalities won't cure it. It'll help, but it seems to run a lot deeper, particularly in our community.
Let's talk about the foundation of sagging. For those people who may not be familiar with the foundation of where actually these sagging pants and the whole sagging look actually came from, share with us.
Well, prison. Clear and simple. When the inmates, to prevent them from hanging themselves or causing body harm to others, they took their belts away from them. So in turn, again, the gentleman's pants would tend to droop. As any one of us, if we walked around with slacks that we didn't have a belt on, it was possibly too big, because it's not like when you're incarcerated, they say, okay, let's measure your size and trim you as a tailor and make sure that your pants fit. No, if you wear 36 waist and we got only 38s, you get those 38s and you put them on. But without a belt, you know, your pants would droop and drag. Now today, it's gone a little further, that the look of, you've seen young brothers, their pants are not even just halfway to their butts. Some of their pants are below their butts. Yes. And in turn, in jail, that is a sign that you belong to another male in lockup. So some of our young people, they don't even have a clue actually what they're doing when they're walking around the streets looking like. And when you tell them, enlighten them, some of them are combative to the new information, and some of them are totally at awe because they did not even know what they're perpetuating when they walk around the communities looking like such.
When you see people with sagging jeans, the question I'm going to ask you is, what do you say to them? Do you say anything, or do you just observe?
No, well, you already know, Dare2Dream, we don't hesitate. That's our family, that's our boys. But we talk to them. We've talked to us many times. The young men that we've talked to, and we're talking hundreds, rarely do any of them have any type of male leadership. If you talk to them about who leads you, where did you get this look, where do you get this disrespect from, they seem to have just an inner no caring about anybody for themselves, and that's really where it comes from. There's a cry for help. They're saying, listen, see me. I want to talk to somebody. I need somebody to show me the right way. If not, I'm going to follow the crew. And that seems to be what they're doing, because we're seeing the sagging pants, not just in New York, but Battle Creek, Michigan, small towns where they really have no reason to do so. But it's just a cry of, listen, I need some help. I need some guidance. And that's really what they tell them. Most of them talk to you. It's been my experience.
And one of the things that's important to note is this is something that might have started in the African-American community, but this has branched out into all the other cultures, and this is becoming now culturally acceptable, the fact that you can walk this way.
And females as well. We've seen many females that have
Yes.
done the same, adapted that same type of style. Part and parcel to the jail and where it came from, the media has to have something to do with this. For the last 20 years, the music, the videos, those types of things have perpetuated
Yes.
that look, that attitude. We as a community accepted it. We turned our back on it. We didn't say anything about it when we started cussing on the music, when we started seeing more and more cursing on television. Now all of a sudden, we're surprised that the kids wouldn't emulate that.
Right.
And that's all they had. They didn't have the leaders. They didn't have fathers in their home. So they were going to follow something. Ergo, here we have it.
And it has been a controversy. I want to talk about the controversy and hear what some people are saying, because there is possible there is legislation in the works to try to make sagging pants a crime. Now, here is what some in the hip-hop community are saying. This is the latest example of adults trying to repress the creativity and individuality of kids. This is Russell Simmons, who's the founder of Fat Farm and Argyle Culture. This is what he had to say. You know, the latest example of adults trying to repress the creativity and individuality of kids. Why would kids want to dress like Senator Adams? Talking about Senator Eric Adams, who's proposing the legislation. There's no connection to sagging pants and the ability to succeed. Just look at what buttoned up America has done to the rest of the world and each other. Why can't kids be different? And so Russell says, why can't kids be different? There's nothing different with the button up. Look at the button up culture. Why can't we have this sagging culture?
The sagging culture, you know, I have, you've heard of a little young lady by the name of Nene Ali, a spoken word. She's part of my youth empowerment program. And she has one spoken word that she says, you know, if young men look at sagging spelled backwards, they actually see what they're actually acting like. And I won't even use the word what sagging spells if you spell it backwards. I'll leave it up to the people out there to figure out what it actually means. Having a style, I mean, we all grew up. When we grew up, we had our own little styles and the way we dressed, and it was the fashion of the day. You know, I've seen some of the young men today, you know, their pants, they've taken their shirts, and because it seems like they want to advertise the name of their pants, the shirts will come down just to where the top of the pants start. Now, for some of them, they don't seem to get it. They go a little further where this look looks totally inappropriate. It's not a style. I can look at a young man and see when a man is putting a style together, then as opposed to I'm looking at somebody who was just really lost and out there, not understanding that his image, he's taking it to another level. And when you do things like that, you become offensive to the people. And when you become offensive, now the behavior is different than talking about it's just a style. And one of the things I found offensive, he mentioned about the media having everything from the rap world that sells is something that's negative that's portrayed on our community. We know that this look is inappropriate as adults, but even when you go to some of the stores, I saw mannequins are dressed with their pants halfway down their butts. I mean, what are you saying to us? If only thing I can get is sagging pants, that's the way I'm going to dress. If I can't find a tie and a suit in the community, then I have to dress what they provide to me in my community. And that's what our young men are facing. It was one of the issues they're facing today.
What do you think about Russell? Is Russell saying, listen, you guys are just taking this a little bit too far. You know, hip-hop is a culture. These young people have a culture. They ought to be allowed the opportunity to do this. You know, button-up has its generation. Now it's the sagging generation. You say what?
With all due respect to Mr. Simmons, he's not around over here when we're talking to these young men. He's not here when we have to pick up the pieces for these young men who are constantly being picked up and taken to jail. He's nowhere to be found when the young men have nowhere to go, kicked out of their houses, no jobs, nowhere to be found. But yet when it's something that seems to be dealing with his world, the music world, the video world, he wants to jump on it. Quite frankly, I laugh at that comment, and I wish that he would not have said anything like that.